Welcome back to Sneaker Impact News. Today, our special guest is Danny Rodriguez, the founder and CEO of Blue Missions. Danny, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Brian. Looking forward to sharing a little bit about our mission.
Awesome. Well, it's Blue Mission, and I'm wearing blue today for Blue Mission. It's all about water and about improving lives and this amazing nonprofit that you are the founder of. So, can you tell us in a nutshell, like if you're in an elevator with someone that you just met or on a plane, with the first couple sentences about Blue Mission?
Yeah, for sure. Blue at the core, it stands for building love, uniting everyone, right? And that's important because a lot of people interpret our mission as water,
Mm.
which is a key part of our mission,
Hmm.
where we're working towards a world where there's water for all forever. And the way we do that is by inspiring our youth and providing them with ways to engage with the water crisis, to travel abroad and help communities connect with clean water, while also working here locally to kind of stress the urgency of how important it is to protect our water sources wherever they're under threat and to advocate for the protection of what is life. We in the first world, water is something that we've never had to walk for or struggle for, right? But the reality is that there's over 1 billion people on the planet who every morning don't know where they're going to get their fresh water or have to walk far distances to get that water. So Blue's mission in a nutshell is to connect communities to clean water and people to their purpose.
Wow. Connecting communities to water and people to their purpose. You guys are based in Miami. I got to come and be part of your Building Young Leaders program, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. And I've actually known about Blue Missions for a couple of years, but didn't know a ton about you guys. I started meeting your team and hearing about how many kids' lives you're changing. I got to meet the kids themselves, how dedicated they are, how mature and just amazing these kids are that you're working with, and the huge numbers, and how your dad's involved. So I just want to get into it all today. And can you tell us the origin story? I wanted to start out with that.
For sure, for sure. And this story, Blue was founded in 2010. But the journey actually began a few years before that. When I was a junior in high school, I had a service hour requirement, and my dad had been asking me to go on mission. He had taken my sister on mission a few years before, and he had traveled to the Dominican Republic to work on clean water projects in small mountain towns, somewhere in between 30 families and 150 families. So he went on that mission and he said, Danny, why don't you come with me? You need the service hours. You need something to write about in your college applications. So I went. Even though maybe I didn't go for all of the right reasons the first time, the experience impacted me in all of the right ways. And I fell in love with the work as a 16-year-old, in the mountains of the Dominican Republic. In that 10-day experience, I was waking up early, digging trenches alongside community members, mixing cement, doing everything that was required to ensure that by the time this project was complete, that the community would have clean water. And I'll never forget when the water arrived on that last day,
Wow.
and the entire town gathered, and we tested the system. And when that water shot out through the pipe, the young kids that had been working with us all week ran under that pipe, started dancing, playing, and then I just looked around and saw the elders in the community, their grandparents, crying tears of joy, knowing that their grandchildren wouldn't have to walk for water the same way they did,
Wow.
right? So, at the age of 16, it was transformative. I don't think it fully clicked in the moment, but it made me curious and it made me want to keep going back with that organization. So I returned with that group called LIFO Missions 3 times before co-founding Blue Missions in 2010. I was 19 at the time, studying finance at FIU. And I just wanted to find a way to keep going back. And really, the founders of LIFO Missions approached me and said, "Why don't you start a group and we can help two communities every year instead of one?" So the vision early on, I saw this as a passion project. I didn't see it as a career or vocation. I saw it as a way that every year I can raise a few $1,000s, gather a group of friends, go do some good, and kind of check off a box of philanthropy, of giving back, showing gratitude for all the blessings that I have.
Mhm.
But the original vision was never, to create a huge organization
Yeah,
working with
a
thousands of
movement.
youth.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So those are the origin stories of Blue and how we got
Wow.
started.
So you guys have been doing this for over 15 to 20 years now. Your dad got you inspired. I love that story so much. I love the also just I was looking at your Instagram yesterday and on your website and seeing the kids and the adults carrying the tube or the pipes. And the first they have to trench, they have to build the trench. And, I think that's really good stuff that those then rewarding and then so powerful and beyond a value. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, how this is changing lives and I mean, it's changing lives in so many ways in Dominican Republic, changing lives in Miami, changing kids' lives, changing communities, generations. I mean, it's so powerful.
Yeah,
Water is so important and it's so overlooked sometimes, but it's the first thing to improve their life and so close to us. So now tell us, like, kind of over the years, what are some of your accomplishments, the numbers of kids you've taken there, how many trips a year, communities affected?
for sure, for sure. And water is life, and I think that's why I was so moved as a teenager, coming from the first world and really getting to a place where you understand that there's just barriers, right? You start to appreciate what you have, right? And
Absolutely.
I remember me reading, so to continue the story, once I graduated from FIU, I decided to move to the Dominican Republic. This was in January of 2012, and spend 9 months working with an NGO on the island, just kind of continuing to explore, what it was that, my destiny was in terms of career and purpose. Um, and that experience really gave me more details and insight into why some communities struggle with water and what are the systemic issues behind water. And you start seeing that it's the foundation of everything. If you don't have water, you can't pave your roads, you can't build concrete structures. You're losing hours every single day just going to collect it. You're
Mm,
spending the majority of your income on medicines if you're forced to drink dirty water, right? Or there's some communities that are healthy, but they're spending half of their income to purchase water from a truck that drives by and fills it up in their home. So
wow.
immersing myself into the country and into the issue
Yeah, we don't have to
really
deal with
gave
those issues
me
in the U.S. And until people travel.
no,
Like I've gone down to Guatemala into the mountains. I've never been to Dominican Republic, but yeah, once you leave the country to go deep, and you'll see in the Amazon and places how people they don't have the same services
yeah,
we have, and if we it, it's health too, but it's also for helping them to grow, right, and just become more
of
prosperous,
course.
more um, healthy, but also more connected, and less, like you said, spending hours a day just hiking to get enough water to cook and clean with. I'm assuming that forget about
Yeah,
construction projects or anything else.
exactly, exactly. So it's so foundational in that, and the ability to see such a transformation in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
What's really unique is that for in our early years, when we started, we were connecting people to clean water for less than $30 per person. So it's such a as a community, an average project is about 15,000 in material costs,
Okay.
right? And when you back that into the amount of people in the community, it really doesn't take much to solve these issues, but it takes a partnership between the organization and the communities. And that's
Mhm.
something that we knew from day one, that we wanted to make sure that these were community-led projects, right? So we receive requests from hundreds of communities across the Dominican Republic, expressing their need for water and what their situation is. And then we go evaluate these communities. We see how feasible the project is, both from an engineering standpoint and from a logistics standpoint. And then we make selections. And once a community is selected, they go into a process of training where we work with them to elect a local water committee, so that they understand everything from the construction of the system to the maintenance of the system,
Wow.
um, to having every family sign a water contract, right? And
Wow.
each family commits to
Yeah.
working
This
on
is
the
so cool.
project, but also paying a monthly fee, whether it's $1, $2,
Okay.
$3 a month. That goes to the water committee,
Okay.
and now the water committee has a reserve to be able to pay someone to maintain the system, to
Repairs,
repair the
maintenance.
system.
Yeah, 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 100%. That's
Yeah,
so
because if
cool.
you
I
just
didn't
go
realize that
in,
there was a water committee and like a way to take ownership and to empower and also get investment in it. That's so cool.
yeah, it's
It's not just a
foundational.
one pop in for the weekend or a week and dig. And we're going to talk about how you get the water to the communities too, because I didn't understand it first. I thought you were going straight down into the earth. Um,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
actually going
So
from the mountains and you're bringing it in through like gravitation, gravity, gravity.
correct. So yeah, I'll dive into some of the technical
Yeah.
aspects
But
of
that's
the
so cool that
work.
there's a water committee. So thank you for explaining that and continue if you need to.
Yeah, and they become key in everything having to do with the project, right? And we asked them, where is it that your ancestors used to go during the worst droughts to get their water? Right? And every community has an answer of where that fresh water spring could be, right? And they may have a few answers, and then our team goes out, tests those water sources for quality and quantity, to see if they qualify for what it is that we build, which is a gravity-driven aqueduct. 95% of our systems are gravity-driven aqueducts. And what that means is we're tapping into water sources that are at a higher altitude than where the homes are in the community. And when we locate that source, a micro dam gets built, and then PVC pipes come out of the bottom of that dam. There's filtration that goes on near the source, and it flows with gravity into a reservoir tank that gets constructed together with the community, with the volunteers. And that tank, the water gets treatment, and that tank is also at a higher altitude than where the homes are.
Mm.
So gravity
Okay.
brings the water down from a water source down to a tank, and then from that tank, it flows down to the homes in a community, and every home actually gets a faucet, right? So in the span of a couple of weeks, you're able to see a community go from walking to collect water to having a faucet in their home, and they have all the water they
Wow.
need right on site. So I do believe that's one of the,
Yeah.
the reasons why we've had so much success, why we've seen so much growth as an organization is because the transformation, there's no questions about the transformation. A volunteer sees it from taking bucket showers on the
Mhm.
first week of the trip
Yeah.
to by the end of the trip, they might have a faucet over their head
Wow.
and they're able to take
The
a shower under
word
a faucet.
spreads in the DR that this good work is going on. I'm sure, and I'm sure once you do a good job with one community, they all are interested in
Hmm.
improving their, you know, the ability to have that modernization of water. It's so interesting. I was watching on YouTube documentary about the LA, Los Angeles aqueduct and how they got the water to LA. It just popped into my algorithm, and because I'm a dorky scientist, and it was so fascinating. It was like 50 minutes, and it's not just. I didn't realize that like LA is getting their water from like super far north
Hmm.
in these foothills of the Sierra Nevada or Sierra Madres, and like all the different political fights that went on, and how the history and when they started the projects and they did second and third projects, and how they're just like they start from a source, and an aqueduct can be a canal, it can be a underground, it can be there's so many like an aqueduct transports water and it uses gravity, and they actually in some places have to push the water up a little area through
Hmm.
pressurization, through a special technology to get it instead of building around the topography. But it was fascinating to me that most people take for granted, I'm sure in Los Angeles, where their water is coming from, or in any major city. Miami, where's our aquifer, where are
Hmm.
we getting our water, like Okeechobee, all these aspects. Maybe people don't even realize all the management going on, and that a lot of it's stored in a certain area, just like you said. It just doesn't come gushing in. They're treating it if they need to. I'm sure in LA they talked about treatment, and the DR, you're getting it right out of the mountains too. Um, so it's so cool to me. It's like this is like an art form. I feel like that, that people have
Yeah.
forgotten about because it's one of those things we take for granted. And so to
Yeah,
see you
the
guys doing this work,
Romans
wow,
the Romans
chill.
pioneered it, right? The
Yeah.
Romans invented the aqueducts,
Okay.
and
So it started with the
it
Romans.
really is. It's such a
Yeah.
simple, right? That's why we love it for the types of communities that we serve. We want as
Yeah.
limited of moving parts as possible, right? We want to make sure that if a pipe breaks, if something is off on the system, that they can repair that from right where they are, and that once you start bringing in motors and pumps,
Mm.
it becomes a little more complex in terms of the maintenance of the system.
Yeah.
But when it's all gravity, until gravity fails us, these systems will never fail.
Awesome. Yeah, the DR is such a beautiful country. Dominican Republic, the forests there, the mountains, it borders Haiti, and not everyone may know, that it's this lush, rainforest. They just might not know if they're not into, travel or botany. I've always heard super amazing things about the DR as a botanist. It's a wild, beautiful place to visit. So it's so cool that you focused on that country to help. And it's so near to Miami, and you're taking the kids. So now, can you tell us more about how the organization has grown, about your staff and team, the kids, some more of the aspects of the organization?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so we'll kind of
Or
continue
continue the
walking you
story.
through the
Yeah,
journey.
continue the journey.
Yeah, yeah. So that first year in 2010, I took 10 friends on mission. We completed our first project. The following year, there was 20 friends that were interested, and the third year, there was 35 friends that were interested. Right. So what's cool about the Blue experience when it comes to the service trips and the mission trips is that we rarely get a chance to truly disconnect and reflect, right? We live in such a fast-paced world, where especially coming from a city, where your calendar drives you, right?
Mm,
You go from one thing to the next, and there's always something to kind of take care of. And when you go on a Blue Mission service trip, you truly have an opportunity to disconnect from all these distractions, because that's what they are here back at home, and reconnect with what's most important, right? Which is your true nature, right? And to be able to do that in the modern world is something that we don't take for granted, and something that we believe is critical for our youth, right? So that's why we've grown the service trip program. And after that third trip, that's really when the next inflection point happened in my journey. We were working in the town of Carrasco, which is the poorest community that Blue has ever worked in. Only about 30 families. They produce rice, so mostly everyone in the town worked the rice fields. And we had to go get that water from 10 kilometers away. It was the furthest source we had ever tapped into. And bringing that water down, working with the 30 families, a lot of kids in this town, where you could visibly see the impacts that they had from drinking the dirty river water down the road. They had spots on their head, the bellies were out, malnutrition, a lot of, there was no concrete structures, right? So you're talking about dirt floors in the homes. That's how parasites can enter as well, through the bottom of your feet. Um, so it was just a very impactful project. We knew that this was going to make a major impact in the lives of this community. And on the last day, a young girl named Violeni, who I have become close to over the course of the preparation of this community since I was living in the country. And she was kind of leading all the kids that were working with us. They carried pipes with us all the way the 10 kilometers to the source. They mixed cement with us, and then they celebrated with us when the water arrived. And on the last day, she told me, "Thank you for giving me a chance to go after my dream of becoming a lawyer."
wow.
Um, at 10 years
10 years
old,
old. Whoa.
she understood the magnitude of this project,
Yeah.
because she knew what it meant to carry the weight of the water crisis. She was carrying the weight of the water crisis for her family, And she knew that this meant that now she can go to school every day. That now those dreams that kept her up at night were actually on the table and were a reality. And for me, that was very impactful. I that was the end of my gap year. It kind of culminated with that blue trip, and called up my parents. I said, "Can I move back in with you in Miami and work for free for Blue and see where this could go?" I have a
Wow.
feeling that this is more than a hobby,
Yeah.
that this is could be a vocation. And got to work that year and grew the projects from one project a year to four projects. It wasn't enough to sustain an employee. So I went out and got another job. And I started now selling pipelines throughout all of Latin America, selling to governments 60-inch lines instead of 3-inch lines, like what we were doing at Blue. But it gave me a huge opportunity to grow as a professional, to understand the issue, to understand the engineering of systems. And my boss at the time loved the mission, was a supporter of the mission, and he allowed me to keep growing it. Gave me a lot of flexibility to do both my job and grow the mission. And when we got to 2015, 2 years into that, I was able to quit that job and dedicate myself full time to the organization. I called up my two best friends who had been involved in the mission and said, "Hey, if I could pay you $30,000 a year to work out of the third bedroom of my house, do you want to go after this dream?" And they said yes, and the three of us got to work. And that year, we grew from 9 projects to 21 projects. And we knew that we had proven the concept, that we were onto something. And kind of that's when the real growth started to happen in the
Wow.
organization, and it
Yeah.
went from passion project to life's work and vocation.
Wow. Talk about origin story. This is
Yeah.
great. No, very powerful stuff. Started with just one trip, you and your dad, and then just really, I love how you got so, you really wanted to explore, you know, what this meant to you. It's going to mean to a lot of people. What it meant to the community, it's going to mean to even more communities. You can help all these communities that just need, some assistance. Maybe whether it's technical knowledge or hands or just someone to come in and help them. Okay, so where do we go next, Danny?
Yeah, no, I mean, something you said there kind of resonated with me. And, I think from a young age, I knew that I wanted to do something I loved with my life. I knew that money wasn't the end all be all. That was never what drove me. Think when I was thinking about my career, my profession, it was never dollars. It was always, I'm going to be spending so much time doing this thing. I hope it's something I love. I
Mm,
hope it's some, and then as I started having these experiences, it evolved from not only I hope it's something I love, but I hope it's something I love, and I hope it's something that impacts people in a positive way, right? And
so
now
true.
at Blue, we call that framework your drop.
Your
Finding
drop.
your drop,
I love that.
and
Finding
and
your
that,
drop.
and and that's when you combine your talents and passions with opportunities to give back, right? So
Very cool.
that has become an essential part of this mission, right? How do we inspire our youth to live that sort of life, to believe in that, to say, my life is about more than just making a lot of money. My life is about purpose. My life is about helping others. It's about using my gifts to help those who aren't as fortunate or haven't had the same opportunities that I've had, right? So, a big part of our mission and the duality of our mission is that it's that we believe that the ripple effects of our programs, we'll never know how far they reach, right? And that's the goal, right? That we can plant these seeds of purpose, of hope, of service in the hearts of our youth, while introducing them to maybe careers that they've never heard about, and showing them, helping to guide them, giving them safe spaces to really reflect and look inwards, because that's the key part of all this, right? We all do a lot of things. We do good things. We do things that are just for work. We do fun things. But how do we align that with purpose, right? And that becomes kind of the guiding light for us as an organization. If we can create those safe spaces for reflection, the pause is the key. That's what we don't see a lot of in our society, the stopping to think, how does this moment that just happened in my life affect my life going forward, right? So that's kind of how the blue message goes out, right? Whether it's through one of our international service trips or through our domestic programmings, which, I'll kind of take the story in that direction. The international program continued to grow once we had employees here stateside. Um, but we knew that not everyone could travel with us, right? I think in the late 2010s, we started to think, how do we take these messages that we're trying to instill in our youth and bring them home? How do we make sure that price, the barrier, volunteers pay their own way to travel with us? If you can't pay your way to travel on a mission, how do we bring that education to you here at home and start and get you on that purpose journey, right? To start thinking about it. And that's how REACH was born. REACH is our domestic arm. It stands for Reflection, Education, and Action to Connect Humanity, right? So that's the framework of our learning model. Everything that we do has three components in it. It has a learning component, it has a service component, and it has the reflection component, right? Which becomes that key moment where we ask our volunteers and youth to now think about what they've learned and how
Mm,
it fits into their life,
wow.
right? So ultimately here locally, we're building the next generation of water warriors. We want to teach them about our water sources, like you were talking about earlier, about the Biscayne Aquifer, about the Everglades, about South Florida, and how water is the foundation of everything down here. It's the economy, it's health, it's opportunity. We're seeing such a mass migration into South Florida and into Florida in general
Hmm.
that we need to keep pace with that, right? In the way we steward our resources, right? Because one day, if we don't protect them, if we don't steward them, then we have to start thinking about how do we ration it, or how do we split it up, or how do
Mm,
we repair it.
sure.
But if we take action now, if we teach our youth to fall in love with the environment that surrounds us, if we create that emotional connection between us and our resources, now
Yeah.
we're building a generation that it's in their DNA to protect our water, right? And that's why I always kind of say that the water crisis is a generational issue. And when we can inspire our youth to love our water, that's when we have the breakthrough, where we can guarantee water for all forever.
Wow. Yeah. Water's foundational. I went for a swim in the ocean this morning and it's so lovely. I swim at this local swim club and it's healing. And Biscayne Bay, you're just talking about, and I see what's people that don't live here might not know. There's been a lot of fish kills, oxygen, or sorry, the fertilizers and but yeah, it depletes the ecosystem of oxygen, and then the fish die. In like thousands and hundred, tons of fish kills and other marine life's affected. The ecosystem's affected. Our local water health's affected. People trash our bays when they come here sometimes, and it makes the news. And people like local 10. I love Luis Aguirre, what he's doing with Protect Our Bay. And I love what you guys are doing. And, so many other great organizations in Miami that are it's really taken off in the last 10 to 20 years. I've lived here about 18 years and I moved here from a very progressive place in the Midwest. That's, very environmental minded, and Miami didn't have that reputation. But now it's just like with debris free oceans and you guys and the zero waste movement and all these different organizations that we've had on Sneaker Impact News and also just out there that I meet every weekend. We're going this weekend to Southwest Ranches for they're a leader in sustainability and, for their International Day of Zero Waste, and the Coral Gables Sustainability Village this weekend, at their farmers market. Just so many things going on in South Florida for sustainability. Also, improving good for people and the planet, social good, is so important. It's like we can't put a value on this. That's what you and I were talking about when you came for a visit to Sneaker Impact a couple weeks ago. Um, I'm sure you guys can quantify some of the impact you're making, but just on the kids alone who you're taking, on these, um, on the missions, on the trips, international trips, like, or just working with them here in Miami and the building the Young Leaders program, like, you can't put a dollar amount on any of this work that you guys are doing. Like, it's impossible. It's priceless. I truly believe that. And so, but is there any? Have you ever attempted to think about how much you're impacting and changing people's lives in and here and around the world, like as an organization, without looking at the bottom line in terms of profitability as the key KPI, they would say, of like success?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're big believers in data at Blue Missions. You know, we're a data-driven organization. You know, we believe in research. We believe in understanding the impacts of your work. And you know, I agree with you that the ripples go so far that it's hard to track all of the impacts, right? Because it's so generational, right?
Mm.
The impacts they spread across
And this
generations. If
inspiration could be the one thing that takes the kid in the direction to become a leader versus just a cog in the system.
Correct, correct, correct. And it's up to us to be able to figure out ways to track, monitor, evaluate our programs for success, right? But there's nothing more powerful than the testimonies, right? And what we see with return rates, right? Kids coming back to serve multiple
Mm.
times, then coming back as interns once they're in college to now provide that same experience that impacted them, to now take it to the high school generation, and then eventually potentially become employees within the organization, or donors of the organization. So, you know, we see it, we see the impacts, and then on the actual water project side and the impacts through water and sanitation, you know, we've been able to connect over 42,000 people to clean water over 16 years
Wow.
across 100 communities. Actually, this summer we're going to celebrate our 100th water project in the Dominican Republic.
Wow.
Um,
100
and
communities.
yeah,
Each community,
100 communities, 42,000 people.
42,000.
Um,
Wow. That's great.
yeah,
That's
and
incredible. That's a legacy.
thank you. Thank you. And we've worked on sanitation in another 200 plus communities as well, connecting over 15,000 people with bathrooms. You know, that's something that
That's right. We didn't talk about
it
the
was,
latrines yet. People can find that as well on your Instagram and on your website, how you guys designed these. What, how would you describe it? Not only
yeah,
hygienical and sanitary, but it changes their lives too.
yeah,
How can you
yeah.
explain?
They're
Can you
called
go
ventilated. They're called ventilated improved pit latrines, right? And
pit
and they're a model
latrines?
that's
Nice.
used.
Yeah.
It's a model that's used in the developing world where there is no access to sewer, right? Obviously, if these are small mountain towns that don't have access to clean water, they're less likely to have access to a sewer line.
Mm. This is
So
very
these are
rural projects. We
solutions.
should remind people these are very rural projects.
Yeah, yeah. One of our criteria is what is the likelihood that this project is going to take place if we don't, you know, select it,
Mm.
right? So we're going to the areas that are very difficult to work in, and we added a sanitation program because as I kept learning and growing in this profession, you realize how closely tied water and sanitation are, and the success rates of water projects go up exponentially when you combine it with a sanitation project,
Mm.
right? So not only are you bringing people clean water, but now you're providing them with a safe place to go to the bathroom that contains the contaminants that could get back into your water, right? So we have, it's not just a health issue, it's also a dignity issue,
Mm.
right?
I love that.
Imagine being the only kid who has to wait till he gets to school to use the bathroom, right? Or being a young girl and not having
Mm.
a safe place with a door that locks to be able to use the bathroom, right? So the families we serve through bathrooms, you know, they're so proud of their bathrooms once they're built, right? And they're so happy to have somewhere in their home that's safe and sanitary to use. Sometimes we're replacing bathrooms that are overflowing, you know, pit
Wow.
latrines that when it rains, all that fecal matter can spread, you
Yeah.
know, throughout their yards, right? And these are
Yeah.
people who live off their land. They're people growing crops, right? So water and sanitation go hand in hand, and um, you know, we feel really blessed that we're able to go into a community, address the water issue, and then phase two becomes to come back to that community and build bathrooms for as many families that need them. Usually, we'll do 16 at a time.
Wow.
So these are long-term relationships with these water committees and with these communities where over the course of 3 to 5 years, we might be working in their community 5 or 6 times to address these needs. But always we
So,
start with
wow, I didn't
water.
realize that 5 to 6 potentially, you know, what would you call mission projects with them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
To help improve not just the water you're bringing in, but then individual families. And yeah, these are nice latrines in the sense of, like wood, and like, are you using locally sourced wood? That's my first question as a former forester, or locally
Yeah, for
sourcing the
sure,
wood.
for sure.
Yeah.
We're using their what they call their Pino Criollo,
Okay.
right? So it's their local pine.
Mm,
Um,
pine.
and yeah, the so every family is responsible for digging their pit, right? That's the commitment of the family.
I love that.
And then we come in with the materials for throwing the concrete base, a ceramic or fiberglass toilet.
Okay.
Um, there's ventilation
Yeah, I saw
in
there's
the
like an
latrine.
opening at the top. Really cool
Yeah.
diagram on your website. I'll flash that up right now.
Yeah, and those are standards that were set by, the World Health Organization. They're used by many organizations around the world,
Oh wow.
and they're those ventilated, improved pit latrines. We
Okay.
call them the VIP
Yeah.
latrines.
Much better than what the
But
porta potties, I think, they're more natural.
yeah, 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 yeah,
That's so
and
cool.
yeah. So that's I'll kind of just
That
walk you
that
through a
really
couple
kind
other
of ties a
phases.
couple of things together, that it's not just providing water, it's also protecting the water in the community and giving them the dignity and the health to be able to, these basic human needs, going to the bathroom, that we take advantage in first world countries. But if the grid went down, we would all have to figure out.
Yeah, that's it right there. And we've been able to add a couple other pillars to our programming.
Okay.
So phase three has become our filter program, where we work in specific communities to gift filters in the home, right? So something that we learned throughout this work is that there's a cultural, barrier with water in the Dominican Republic as well. For generations, they've been told they can't drink out of the faucet, right? So
Hmm.
the bottled water is subsidized. Many people purchase those 5-gallon jugs for about $1 each,
Okay.
and they'll buy one every day or every other day, and that's what they'll use to consume, right, for
Hmm.
drinking and for cooking. Um, but we've been able to reduce that expense in a lot of cases by educating the community on how to use a point of use filter,
Okay.
right? So these are two 5-gallon buckets with a media filtration component inside. We use a charcoal activated
About to say
filter.
charcoal. Yeah.
Um,
That's awesome.
and it drips, right? So you pour the dirty water in the top
And
bucket,
then you take it
drips through
away.
the filter. They sit on top of each other,
Sure. Two
right? So the
five
water
gallons.
just drips down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the clean water
Oh
just drips
wow.
to the bottom
I never
bucket
thought
where you
about
have a
that.
spigot.
That's a great system.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we
I
have them
want
here
to do
at our
that.
office,
Can you do that with
and
rainwater?
they're great. Yeah, you can do it with any water.
Whoa, I
You
want to
can do it with any
definitely.
water.
Wow. This is so cool.
Yeah,
So that was a third pillar, is filtration. Is there more pillars?
correct. And then our fourth pillar, which is in development, we've run a few pilots in the area. It's our sustainability pillar, right? So a few years ago, we added the word forever to our mission because we started seeing that water was under threat, right? That climate
Mm,
change and a lot of factors are really stressing our water sources out. So our mission went from just being water for all to water for all forever. And that's where that sustainability pillar comes in, where after we've addressed water access situation in a community, after we've addressed sanitation, after we've addressed filtration, we want to now work with that local water committee and that community to sustain the system long into the future, right? So within that sustainability pillar, we're doing composting stations at the schools in these communities that we're working in.
wow.
We're looking at reforestation projects to
Amazing.
reforest
Yes.
the areas around the
It's
sources
amazing.
where we're tapping into this
I love it.
water. And then we're looking into youth education, right? Taking some of the stuff we're doing here locally and how do we inject that into the Dominican countryside, right? How do we
Mm,
empower local teachers to have the materials they need to help their youth fall in love with nature and what surrounds them, right? It's up to them to protect this environment, right?
you're right.
They're uniquely aware of it. They're uniquely using the resources within it, right? So if these teachers can inspire those kids to love that nature that surrounds them and to love that aqueduct that they now have, they become the stewards forever, right? And it fits into our vision where it's a generational transformation that we're working on.
Wow. So much education. It's so important. This is the type of story that should be featured on the evening news. Um, I know you've done a
Yeah.
TED talk. We talked about before the podcast started today. So was this one of the official TED talks on the stage where?
Yeah, it was a TEDx, right? So it was a community event. This one was hosted by the high school that I attended, and
Mhm.
today I'm a board member at the school, Christopher Columbus High School in
Sure.
Westchester.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I can participate in their first TED event, and the whole theme was a roadmap to purpose, right? A lot of the points we've touched on already here on this call, but it was challenging the audience to stop, pause, and reflect, right? That we all have these inflection points in our lives that when you're looking back, hindsight, it's a lot easier to see when you look backwards. But there's these things that happen to you, these moments throughout your life that have the ability to take your life in a certain direction, right? And the talk was all about how do we recognize what those moments are? How do we realize that we're in one of those moments? And what do we do when we're in those moments, right? And pausing and reflecting, volunteering, getting involved, getting your hands dirty. If you learn about an issue, it intrigues you. Figure out who are the local players, who's working on this in my area, and you start volunteering your time first, right? And learning about the issue.
Sure.
And that's going to give you more context as you kind of think about what the next steps on the journey are. But the important thing is that we all realize that we are on that journey
Hmm.
and that we are in control of that journey,
Yeah.
somewhat,
You're
right?
right.
So,
We're the authors of our adventures in our life. Um,
yeah,
it's so important. So
yeah.
stopping, pausing, and reflecting. Right.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's done enough.
Identifying
Yeah.
those inflection points. Kind of did it throughout the course of the TED Talk as
Yeah.
an analogy to a road trip,
Okay.
right? So I love road trips.
Yeah.
And when you're on that road trip, if you have the ability to stop with whatever catches your eye, whatever catches your attention,
That's a good analogy.
um, to
Yeah.
to dive into it deeper, and then um,
Exploration.
I talked about the gaslight, right? The gaslight, your heart will tell you when it's time to reflect, right? But you have to have that open mind, that open heart to actually stop and not just get pulled into the next thing and let it you drive by that billboard and you never pull over.
Mm, yep. So cool. All right. So we're going to link to that TED talk so people can watch the whole thing and become inspired. Because I'm
Thank
just
you.
getting so inspired by this, by this journey that, all started in with one person, one family, and now is spread. I got to come down and present at your Building Young Leaders meeting. You do it once a month
Hmm.
at your headquarters, where you bring together 30 to 40 high schoolers from 16 to 18 years old that are part of the Building Young Leaders program and BYL. And it was so powerful for me. I've done a fair amount of talks at universities and high schools and middle schools, but this one in particular, these kids were so patient. They're all entrepreneurial. They're all into either the STEM sciences or environmental and social good, and other types of entrepreneurial, which this is as well. What you're doing with Blue Missions is an entrepreneurial spirit. And they, I presented on Sneaker Impact and they had some great questions. And then 1 or 2 weeks later, they got to come take a tour of our facility on a Saturday morning and you joined them. But it all started with you guys inviting me to come and present about the company that I work for and I'm an entrepreneur at, and believe in, in the sense of like we are doing social good. Um, that this is an inspirational story for people to see. Oh, this is what happened. They're taking shoes that would go in the landfill, and they're changing people's lives with these shoes, and they're also helping the planet. So I think the kids were fascinated, and then they got to come by and see what happens here, and they all ask some great questions. It's a rare thing to get a behind the scenes tour here on a Saturday. We're closed normally, and none of the machinery was going all over the place. None of the grinders were grinding. but they still got to meet the founder and hear, the same passion we're hearing in your voice today. And I got to meet you then as well for the first time. But before that, I had met Samantha from your team and Olga. So I want to give a shout out to a couple of your amazing teammates that I've met so far. So can you tell us a little bit about your team? I just named a couple of them. Or
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
sorry.
we have an incredible team that's driven by the impact, driven by purpose, right? That's a core value of ours here. Um, and the Building Young Leaders program, when we decided we were going to go after this, right? It's a 16-week program. We have a cohort of 30 high schoolers who participate each year in this program, and they go through a journey. They go through a journey exploring 5 different impact pathways. One of those is social entrepreneurship. There's a STEM category, a policy category, as well as education, nonprofit programming.
Mm,
And we really just want to introduce our youth to all these different impact pathways and people in our local community who have found purpose through their work, right? So this program was built as like, my dream program that I wish I would have had when I had my first experience in the campo and when
mm,
I kind of did my first mission, right? Like this is the program that would have really helped me lock in on kind of how to take that fire that was burning inside of me and how to put that to good use, right? So our hope is to inspire 30 leaders every single year, 30 local change makers who one day will be leading our city, leading our community in a variety of ways,
mm-hmm.
teaching them to lead with purpose, to lead with empathy, to, prioritize our environment. There's no planet B. We need it for everything that we love to do on this planet, right? So over the course of those 16 weeks, they go through that journey, explore the 5 impact pathways, and then the program concludes with a pitch day
Mm,
where they each select a pathway and work on a project throughout the program. And at the end, they present it kind of Shark Tank style, and a few of the projects get funded for them to go out and pursue those dreams that they've been working on. And it's one of the proudest things we do here at Blue. We
wow.
had the opportunity this past weekend to honor one of our young leaders at our gala with the Be Bold Award.
Mm,
And there's a young gentleman. He's a senior at Columbus High School. His name's Robert Echeverry. And after he completed the BYL program, he launched an initiative called Enabling Access. And Enabling Access is using 3D printing to create assistive devices for people with disabilities. He did such a good job in,
wow.
in building out his vision for this program
Yeah.
that he actually placed first in a separate launchpad competition and was
Wow.
awarded $25,000 to accelerate the impact
Oh my
of his
God.
initiative.
Yeah.
So the program's exceeding even
Wow.
what we could even imagine of what kind of impacts it can make on our youth, right? And to see someone like Rob leaning into his purpose, the excitement he has. That I visited him after school one day in the robotics lab,
Mm-hmm.
and before I could even step foot in the lab, he was leading me to a robot, showing me prosthetics he was working on. And I recognized that excitement.
Wow.
It took me back to when I was 19, 20
Yeah.
in the GC ballrooms in the FIU library, kind of working on this dream, on this vision. And, I'm just so proud of him and what he's building and who he's becoming. And I know he's going to leave his mark on this world.
Wow. That's an amazing
Yeah.
story. Congrats to Robert on his Be Bold and this amazing initiative. We'll keep an eye out for that for sure. So much amazing things going on at Blue Missions. I know we're coming up on the end of your time possibly here, but as much time as you have, we'd love to learn a little bit more. So the pitch competition's coming up. I'm honored to be invited, so I'm going to be there. It sounds like as one of the judges. You need
Mhm.
chaperones, you need mentors, you need just people that want to come and do good. You looking for anyone? How does that work?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I encourage anyone who, is hearing this podcast and says, you know what, a mission is something I'm interested in. I encourage you guys to go to our website, explore it. We have 35 projects taking place this year.
Wow.
Every single week this summer,
Wow.
there will be four different projects taking place on the island.
Okay.
I think
Wow. So the summer is a big
what,
focus. Is that because of the
yeah.
availability of people?
Yeah, the majority of our volunteers are high school youth, but
Okay.
we have programs for all ages, So whether you're a company that maybe wants to take your leadership team on mission, or whether you're a church or a parish who wants to bring service, international service to your constituents and to your parishioners, there's an option for you. If you want to chaperone and mentor the next generation of leaders, we have an incredible chaperone program. It's a discounted rate. You
Mhm.
get to experience the Blue program almost like a volunteer, with some additional responsibilities, but um, the mentorship you're able to provide to youth, right? And to watch them discover that purpose, something real special. So definitely anyone who's interested in traveling with us, check out our calendar. There's still spots available for this summer.
Nice.
We welcome you. We invite you to serve with us. And we promise that you'll have an incredible experience, and come back home ready to keep leaning into purpose.
Incredible. So bluemissions.org is the website,
Yes.
and Instagram is Blue Missions.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah. Follow us on socials. We definitely pride ourselves on our storytelling, our marketing, our branding. Since day one, we knew that we wanted to do things a little bit unconventionally when it came to the nonprofit sector, right? So we do a really good job of showing you the impact, being transparent, showing exactly where every dollar goes. We have a 100% model where 100% of public donations go directly to programs, and we're able to track that every year in our impact report. So if you can't go on mission, but still want to support our mission, look for ways that you can get involved, whether it's joining our monthly giving community in the source, donating $5, $10, $25 a month to help connect people to clean water, or whether it's through, like how Sneaker Impact and Bryan have impacted our mission by sharing their stories with our youth, right? If you think you have value to share with the next generation, send us an email, reach out on our website, and maybe you can get involved with our Building Young Leaders program and inspire that next generation.
Yeah. I mean, everything happens for a reason. I do believe that. And it was really good. It was just amazing to be invited to meet your group and to speak to them. I was blown away, inspired to the maximum. I remember driving home. It was, I live, you guys are way down south, kind of by Tropical Park. And I'm kind of on the upper east side by the northeast part of Miami. And I think I was talking to my dad on the way home. I'm like, wow. I was just like, wow. And just everything you're saying, I'm just like, wow. It's just like, because that's how when I can tell you love what you do and that you're making a big difference in the world. And I know you're not even feeling good today. You didn't get your best sleep last night. Your son, you told me, is ear infections, if I can say that. And but yet you're still here and you're still just on like just in the flow. You can tell, you know, telling how it changed your life and then how you have found that purpose, found your purpose. And it's just every single analogy makes sense. Find your drip. I love all these inspirational parts of Blue Missions, from the different pillars. It's not just come in and give them the pipes to make from the mountains. No, it's also, helping them keep it forever. I mean, that's very powerful stuff. So just thank you so much, Danny, for what you guys do. We're definitely going to keep the partnership going between Sneaker Impact and Blue Missions. And yeah, so again, thank you for coming on today. Would you like to close with anything that you'd like to share? I know we're running up on the end of our time here.
Yeah, yeah, no, I just want to thank you. I want to thank Mo and Sneaker Impact, for what you guys are doing, right? And for not only growing your business, right, and doing well from a business standpoint, but for caring about the community, for giving back, giving of your time to our youth, right?
Yeah.
Means the world to them to be able to connect with adults who are changing the world, right? So thank you for that, and thank you for your kind words. For me, the passion you hear is because this is an urgent issue, right? This is real. And we are in these communities, we're eye to eye with people who are, You know, they're in tune with it, with nature, right? They are the ones closest to the consequences when things are out of balance.
Mm.
So for us, we have to be their voice, right? That's our role. And our vision at Blue is to kind of cast that wide net, inspire a lot of youth so that they can go out and do the same.
Well, just incredible. Every single, just you can tell this is well thought out and has helped and has grown. Like you said, 30 some trips just this summer. I mean, how I can't even, guys, get involved. That's all I got to say. We're going to be putting this out there, Danny, right away. And I want to share some more how people can learn more. And you're going to see it more in my feed too, and in Sneaker Impacts, because this is incredible work going on in Miami, guys, that is international and local. And we got the founder right here, Danny, telling you how it all happened. And thank you, Danny, so much. Really incredible to have you on. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's an honor.
All right. Well, keep up the great work. I'm going to let you get back to that work, and your son, who I know ear infections suck. I had a lot of those growing up, so I hope he feels better.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. Take care, Danny. Have a
Take
great
care.
day. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.